El escándalo de Jeffrey Epstein, que involucra a Donald Trump, y la única persona que está lidiando con más dolor y repercusiones por todo esto, además obviamente de Donald Trump, es la fiscal general Pam Bondi, porque Donald Trump ha decidido ponerla en cierto modo como el blanco para todos estos ataques, ya que aquellos dentro de MAGA todavía se aferran a su mentalidad de culto. En esto como culpa de la fiscal general Pam Bondi, y no como culpa de la persona que realmente es responsable, Donald Trump, quien hizo y rompió su promesa y fue mejor amigo de Jeffrey Epstein. Y por culpa de eso, Pam Bondi ha sido arrastrada por el movimiento MAGA durante toda la semana. Y ahora está enfrentando consecuencias en persona. Reporteros mismos la confrontan por sus mentiras. Y Pam Bondi se vino abajo por completo. Le costó hablar e incluso humilló a Donald Trump. Y todo esto durante una desastrosa rueda de prensa. Pero antes de mostrarte lo que Pam Bondi dijo en esta conferencia de prensa, quiero explicarte por qué se sentía tan incómoda de hablar. Y eso tiene que ver en parte por los abucheos que recibió del movimiento MAGA. Miren el clip, por favor.
People have been promised a payoff for many years on this one. So now President Trump and his top aides are engulfed by the very kind of conspiracy theory that they spent so many years promoting, apparently without a lot of forethought about how it would land if they were in charge again. And we're seeing calls for a so-called accountability for their own leaders who claimed one thing and then did the opposite. If you want to fact check Pam Bondi's claim that she had the Epstein client list on her desk, which is one of those very literal statements. It's not like someday we'll get accountability or we'll learn more. It's, I have this well-described client list from this now deceased sex trafficker on my desk, she said. And that wasn't true. And the fact check in this case for that is in the memo her office released on behalf of the entire Justice Department. So you can see how, whether or not you see this as partly a runaway conspiracy theory or content farming debacle, it also involves whether government officials are telling the truth. And on this one, there appears to be an overlap between the tests that journalists and independent accountability professionals and inspectors general tend to apply and what the MAGA faithful want. What you heard there, answer the question, are you telling the truth? And should there be accountability for that? Now, the conference you saw those clips from is from a normally pro-Trump group, Turning Points USA. And you saw the big names, Ingram, Kelly, Tucker Carlson, a lot of Fox veterans, Steve Bannon, who still has a very active relationship inside this administration, warning them that they must change course, that this cannot just be quieted down or covered up, to use the sinister version of how so much of this story on Epstein has played out over the years. Now, Trump's DOJ famously basically said, no, nothing more to see here. No more information or evidence to be given, and the questions they had very loudly pushed were now not going to be answered with the memo I mentioned.
De la misma forma que Dan Bongino y Kash Patel se han dado cuenta que la única forma de mantener su carrera es apostar todo a la historia de Jeffrey Epstein, asegurándose de constancia del movimiento MAGA, Pam Bondi también entiende esto en cierto punto. Y esa es la razón por la que, como vemos en esta conferencia de prensa, trató de escoger sus palabras con mucho cuidado. Y más que nada fue incapaz de hablar claramente. Y se la pasó desviando preguntas, cuando los reporteros únicamente querían saber sobre todo este escándalo de Jeffrey Epstein. Y esto desencadenó el escándalo dentro de la Casa Blanca. Y ahí está la reacción de Dan Bongino y Pam Bondi. Miren el clip, por favor.
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to follow up on that question. I think the American people have a lot of questions about your relationship with the Deputy FBI Director. Do you believe that he should stay in his role? I'm not going to discuss personnel matters. I think we all are committed to working together now to make America safe again, and that's what we're doing. Only on topic, guys.
Así fue como transcurrió gran parte de esta conferencia de prensa. Como cabría esperar, el fragmento que estamos a punto de ver tuvo un poco más de colapso por parte de la fiscal general Pam Bondi, solo quejándose y lamentándose. Pero el hecho de que la administración, que afirma y asegura ser la más transparente de todas, no pueda responder a una pregunta sobre si el subdirector del FBI y la fiscal general de Estados Unidos están en comunicación, o por el contrario, si se están enfrentando. Si sus equipos no están filtrando información sobre el otro, esto es algo realmente horroroso. Esta es la administración que dijo que iba a tomar medidas severas contra el crimen, lo cual fue de hecho algo por lo que Pam Bondi fue confrontada. Pero primero quiero que vean su respuesta sobre el tema de Jeffrey Epstein. Miren el clip, por favor.
Releasing additional credible evidence from the Epstein investigation. Is that something that you are open to doing? He said this just a few moments ago. Let me take that first.
This today is about fentanyl. This is about a wall of people right outside this room who have died from, I appreciate your question, but this today is about fentanyl overdoses throughout our country and people who have lost loved ones to fentanyl. That's the message that we're here to send today. Nothing about Epstein. I'm not going to talk about Epstein.
Claro, entonces ya no vamos a hablar sobre este tema, ¿verdad, Pam Bondi? Ahora es fuera de tema, porque claro, antes de que todo esto reventara muy mal para ustedes, este era el tema del que más querías hablar. De hecho, era el eje de la campaña de Donald Trump. Yo pensaba que estábamos luchando contra el mismo estado profundo. Tú dijiste que ibas al Departamento de Justicia para limpiarlo. Como en tus palabras lo dijiste, para limpiar el pantano, para sacar toda la pobredumbre de Washington. ¿No era eso lo que estabas buscando, Pam Bondi? ¿Acaso eso te parece ahora fuera de tema? Los incontables empleados públicos que despediste para, según tú, limpiar el pantano, para obviamente drenarlo, y ahora no querer hablar del tema, me pregunto yo, ¿por qué? Pero bueno, ella no terminó allí y siguió lamentándose. Miren el clip, por favor.
Our memo speaks for itself, and we'll get back to you on anything else. I haven't seen all of his statements today. We're going to fight to keep America safe again, and we're fighting together as a team. That's what's so important right now. You know, we've got a war on drugs. We've got a war on human trafficking. We've got cartels in this country, and we are going to do. We've got foreign adversaries around this world as well, and we're all going to work together as a team to fight to keep America safe again. And I can tell you, that's what we're all committed to.
Obviamente, esto es una evasiva por parte de Pam Bondi, diciendo ¿que acaso no vamos a pensar en los niños? ¿No vamos a pensar acaso en las drogas en las calles? Pero todo se le volteó de inmediato cuando un reportero le preguntó por los recortes de Donald Trump. Recortes que evidentemente dificultan sacar a los criminales de las calles. Miren el clip, por favor.
Thank you.
How can you keep America safe again when the president's budget for 2026 cuts DEA by $212 million and the FBI by $500 million? Do you support those cuts? Do you think they will harm your capacity to fight crime?
Well, it won't. That's a great question. It won't harm our capacity to fight. I'll tell you that. We can always do more with more, but we can do more with less, and that's what we're committed to doing. The big, beautiful bill also adds a tremendous amount for us in combating, especially the drug crisis, billions of dollars, I believe. Yeah, let me see, $3.3 billion in the big, beautiful bill to combat drug trafficking, support the prosecution of immigration matters, and gang-related crimes. So that crosses all agencies as well. So that bill will greatly help us as well, in addition to the budget. We also have a $3.5 billion reimbursement fund for state and local agencies that are enforcing the Immigration Act, drug and human trafficking laws. And human trafficking is also something we're not talking about today, but is very, very important to us. So yes, there are billions of additional dollars in addition to the original budget. So that was a great question. Thank you.
Entonces, ¿qué pasa, Pam Bondi? ¿Te importa o no te importa? ¿Existe la lista o no existe esa tan famosa lista? ¿Y está Donald Trump en ella o no lo está? ¿La escribió Obama? ¿No la escribió Obama? ¿Está Clinton? ¿Está Comey? Yo no lo sé. Y estoy seguro que ellos no lo saben. Ese es el punto. Quieren ensuciar todo. Quieren que estemos confundidos. Pero en lo que realmente no estamos confundidos es en cuán clara es esta historia. Trump y Epstein fueron los mejores amigos durante una década. Y muy probablemente por más tiempo. Y claro, compartían algunos amigos, ¿verdad? Porque lo dijeron de forma bastante explícita. Pero me pregunto yo, ¿qué está haciendo Donald Trump? ¿Acaso está protegiendo la memoria de Jeffrey Epstein? ¿Está tal vez protegiendo a sus clientes? ¿Está protegiéndose a él mismo? Porque cuando eres multimillonario, obviamente quieres cuidar a tus amigos multimillonarios corruptos. Eso es lo que está pasando y tenemos que seguir enseñándolo. Y alguien que lo está haciendo y está irritando a Donald Trump es Jasmine Crockett justo en este clip.
Over the past 6 months, we've seen hearing after hearing do nothing but attack nonprofits, as well as those who are just generally on a mission to serve, protect, and uplift vulnerable communities. In just my own committees, this has got to be the second or third time I've had to sit through the same tired narrative. If my Republican colleagues are truly concerned about taxpayer dollars being misused for political agendas, I'd encourage them to take a long, hard look in the mirror. But since we're here again, spending more of the American people's money and time on political theater, let's at least stick to the facts. Fact. Under the Trump administration, the Department of Justice stripped hundreds of millions of dollars from the Office of Justice programs, money that funded essential community safety initiatives like victim services, gang prevention, and reentry support. Fact, Trump and Republicans slashed grants to organizations like the National Organization for Victim Assistance, which trains advocates who staff domestic violence shelters, hotlines, and rape crisis centers. Fact, they cut over $10 million in funding to the National Policing Institute, a nonprofit helping rural police departments reduce violent crime. Fact, this week, Republicans are trying to gut PEPFAR, a life-saving program that partners with nonprofits around the world and has saved more than 26 million lives. And let's not forget, many of these cuts were laid out in Project 2025, a radical far-right playbook drafted by hyper-conservative nonprofits for the express purpose of dismantling the very government institutions and systems that serve the public good. Ironically, we even have one of the authors of Project 2025 here with us today. So let's not pretend this is about nonprofit accountability, because if it were, this committee would also be investigating the Conservative Partnership Institute, which has pushed anti-immigrant, anti-LGBTQ+, and anti-vaccine propaganda and hosted efforts to challenge the 2020 election. Mind you, as we have these organizations that are pushing anti-vaccine propaganda, we know that measles has reached a 30-year high when measles had actually been over and done with. But now that we don't believe in vaccines, now children are our targets, unfortunately, and yes, they are dying. The New Century Foundation, a white nationalist organization that somehow maintains its 501c3 status to launder hate speech through the language of intellectual inquiry. Or they would investigate Turning Point USA, which has been linked to organizers of the January 6th insurrection. But Republicans aren't talking about those groups because this isn't about accountability. It's about silencing organizations that challenge Republican power. It's about targeting nonprofits that protect the very people this Trump-aligned movement continues to harm. These organizations are defending victims of unlawful actions. They're helping to combat global pandemics. They're supporting police departments when this very committee won't. They're working to build safer, healthier communities while Trump and his allies defund them to hand out tax breaks to billionaires. And maybe that's the real threat here. They're effective. They get people off the streets, out of prison, and into opportunity. They educate people about injustice, and that apparently scares some folks more than any so-called radical agenda. Because the only thing truly radical about these nonprofits is their belief that human beings deserve dignity, opportunity, and equal protection under the law. Values my Republican colleagues seem to have forgotten, along with love thy neighbor. So instead of demonizing the groups trying to do right by our communities, maybe we should be asking how to support them, how to ensure taxpayer dollars reach the people who need them most, because this hearing should be about public safety, not political vendetta.
Hay maneras de incomodar a Donald Trump, pero Jasmine Crockett no sale de la cabeza de él. Lo tiene completamente loco. Créanme que esto es increíble, porque qué bueno que haya gente que sea intolerable para este hombre. Pero bueno, como siempre lo digo, para mí lo más importante es saber ¿qué opinas al respecto? Te quiero hacer una pregunta que te hice hace un video anterior. Llevo algunos videos subiéndolos con una luz totalmente distinta. No sé si veas todos mis videos, pero de hecho el video que está anterior a este lo hice con esa luz. No sé cuál te guste más, si verme así como siempre me has visto, o verme con todas las luces prendidas. Me encantaría que me lo dejes en los comentarios. Y está de más decirlo, recordarlo, pero si te gusta el contenido de política estadounidense, te gusta estar siempre informado, te va a encantar suscribirte al canal, ya que subo videos todos los días. Mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido con informarte diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.